Welcome to the W2W review. I am the Oakland Knight, and once again, Raider Nation, I am running solo. It is week 1 of the regular season, so Pirate is busy back in LA, typing up the broadcast, getting all ready to roll. It's going to be an epic show. Make sure you stay tuned for Friday's broadcast. All right, Raider Nation, let's go ahead and kick the show off. We got some interesting topics today. We're going to change it up a bit. We're going to change the pace up. Week 1 is coming up this Sunday. So we're going to hold off on offensive Monday and defensive Tuesday. This week we're going to run offensive Tuesday, defensive Wednesday this week. So this week on Monday, I just want to go over and kind of reiterate what we talked about on Saturday when we did our roster cut special live here on YouTube. And now I want to get into a little bit more of a few things that went on after the fact. So there's a little bit of aftermath going on here. So let's just generally talk about some of the cuts again and what happened. There's a few interesting ones. Number 1, we traded Dewey McDonald. We talked about that Saturday. Reggie was able to get a 7th round pick, for a Dewey McDonald, which, a lot of people said. I read a few different things, and I brought this up on Saturday's live show. I want everybody to realize a 7th round pick these days, when I've seen Reggie McKenzie go out and get guys like Jalen Richard, Latham, Hamilton, and I know and Johnny Holton. I mean, a 7th round pick could be gold, guys. I mean, he could lock up, a top undrafted guy at that point, to be on this football team. The guy continues to find talent all over the place. Corey James looks like he's going to be a baller. Obviously not ready to be a full-time starter yet, but he's going to be a baller. So this guy continues to find talent in later rounds. So I think that we need to keep an eye on that. So the fact that he was able to orchestrate such a trade was pretty shocking to me. I thought that was good stuff. Moving on from that, let's go ahead and talk about Naron Ball. I'm going to jump into Naron Ball at this point. Naron Ball, injury prone. I don't know if he'll ever take another snap. Now, he's been placed on the injured reserve list, and I believe that this could be the end for us. Maybe we give him a settlement later on. There's a lot of talent that is being developed on this football team right now. Guys like Shalik Calhoun. And we'll get into another one that's not on this team right now, and I'll give my thoughts on that later on. But, guys like Shalik Calhoun, Corey James, I think, we already got Malcolm Smith. Ben Heaney's still going to be a baller, okay, guys? Even if he doesn't pan out in the middle, you're going to move this guy to the weak side or strong side. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say about the linebacking core, is there's some areas to maybe shift things around, even if it's putting Malcolm Smith in the middle, which is something that we seen last year and that they talked about last year. But, whatever's best for this team, I think they do it moving forward. So I'm okay with that. So I wish the best to Naron Ball. I mean, I know the guy's fully talented, but he had a pretty significant knee injury, if I'm not mistaken. It was his knee, or even something that had to do with his head. Either way, I mean, this guy really needs to focus in on just his body, his health, think about his future in that way. A lot of talk about Niko Thorpe, some people felt that Niko Thorpe should have even been over Dexter McDonald. You know what? I really have no issues with Niko Thorpe, to be honest with you. He's one of those players that at times shined, and at other times, he was just, mediocre, I guess. He's made some plays. And when you look at Dexter McDonald, this is a second-year cornerback drafted by the staff. And I think that he at least matched the play of Thorpe. So then it became a personal preference for whatever reason. Unfortunately, we don't have the seat inside the meeting rooms to figure out how they decided to do that. But nevertheless, a guy like Dexter McDonald's back end of the list. So it's not like he's a starter. I believe the depth chart read, it goes Anderson, Smith, Carey, and DJ Hayden, and then you start to get into the later halves of it. So, that's what it is. I mean, Niko Thorpe was Niko Thorpe, but he got picked up And this was crazy. He got picked up, I believe, by the Carolina Panthers. So he didn't make waivers, but he wouldn't have been a practice squad eligible guy, I don't believe, anyway. So I mean, that is what it is. So there's a couple of players that have already been taken, off our waivers that we had no options for anyway. So that's another good sign. I mean, you have players getting picked up right after they're cut at this point. It means you have some players. You have some, you had to make some tough decisions. You made them, and other teams are trying to benefit off it. So we got the attention of the league. Let's just say that we do have the attention of this league, and that's promising moving forward. All right, so let's go ahead and get into another interesting one. James Cowser, and this is the one that I was going to stay for a little later. I'm actually going to bring him up in the second segment as well. I just want to talk about, the fact that he did. This would be a quick honorable mention until the second half, guys. Cowser did get placed on injury reserved, and I think that's okay. Injured reserve is fine. The question is he's on there for concussion. Yeah, we'll get into that in the second half. I believe that there's a little something more going on there in a positive way, and we'll get into that in the second half. But he is on the injured reserve list, so I believe, I'm not exact sure on the rules, but I believe he's untouchable at this point unless he asks for a settlement for the Raiders because he was injured as a Raider, which makes things very, very interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and stop trying to dance around the big elephant in the room and just hit it head on. George Atkinson III. A lot has been said. We talked a lot and heavy about it Saturday on the live show. But, wow, guys. He goes to the Cleveland Browns. He doesn't clear waivers. Hue Jackson jumps all over it. Hue Jackson's the guy that knows how to utilize, a lot of different talent, and I think Atkinson's going to a good place. I think he's going to have a great opportunity in Cleveland, and this gives us, the Raider Nation, the opportunity to continue to evaluate ourselves, one George Atkinson III. But I want to make something clear. I said this on the live show, but sometimes when you read the comment sections, you don't know if people are listening to the whole show or they're commenting as they're listening to the show. I mean, I said it multiple times. When you look at this running back roster, and this is the way it reads, by the way, guys, the depth chart that came out anyway. The depth chart reads Latavius Murray, DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard, Tywan Jones, Marcel Reese. Okay. And I'm not even sure that actually Marcel Reese wasn't even on there because Marcel Reese is listed as a fullback, so I scratched that. But I'm not disappointed or worried or scared about our running back core. There's some question marks that I do have when it comes to this running back core. However, it's still a solid group. Latavius Murray gets it going. He turns into 2014 form. I'm going to be okay with that. If he comes along and continues to struggle finding the hole at the line of scrimmage, I love the opportunity behind him. I like DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard, even though I believe it's been more talk about him in practice than we've actually seen on the field during preseason. And what I mean by that is a lot of hype came from Bill Musgrave, Jack Del Rio, and other members of the media talking about Jalen Richard, but it's not like we saw a ton of explosion and work from the guy. But what we did see in his ability to return kickoffs and some of the plays that he was making, and even sometimes missed on the field, you saw the speed, you saw his agility. You could tell that this is a big home run hit type guy, and this is why they kept him on the football team. So I'm excited to see him continue to develop and grow, And then after that, you got Tywan Jones listed there And I want to get this out there again. Once again, my issue with Tywan Jones is not a personal one. Tywan Jones is just a guy that's pretty much one-dimensional. He's a situational guy is what I mean. He's a third down specialist, which, this team feels that they need and want. I remember someone said in the comment section, well, he did have the play of the year. That was a great play. Great play. He missed like 3 or 4 guys missed, and he showed his speed down the field, and it was tremendous. But it was one play. That's the one memorable play of his career for me, and from the running back position now. And it was also the one major play that I remember from last year, and that's it. And then I just remember him being dinged up and hurt. Do I believe that Taiwan Jones has the ability to make plays on this football team this year and make a difference? Yes, but when you're talking about a guy that's a third down back primarily, you don't expect too much all the time. You just don't. They also had him down as leading kick returner. I mean, I really was impressed with Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington returning kicks. So I don't know if I want Taiwan Jones back there. I mean, he's injury prone, like I said. If he's going to be a third down specialist, that depth chart is scheduled to change anyway. I don't think that's a permanent depth chart. But I want to see Jalen Richard returning more kicks. I want to see DeAndre Washington, depending on the growth of our running back core, returning kicks. I want to see Johnny Holton. I believe Johnny Holton showed a tremendous amount of explosion returning kicks. So, all these running backs to me have a place on this football team, and I'm excited about it. And we'll cover more on that tomorrow on Offensive Tuesday now instead of Offensive Monday. We'll cover that more in depth. But, George Atkinson III is going to be measured against these guys. And I'm telling you, and all I ever said was the kid showed he had the ability. Now, there's probably something more there. I want to get into more of that tomorrow as well, but I know that I don't believe it was just the love of Richard and the love of Washington that pushed Atkinson out. There's got to be a little bit more. Something had to do with in the film room, something to do with the practice squad. He wasn't the guy, not for his ability, but maybe for something else, because the guy just fourth string guys, third string guys, you're doing it against or not. You don't dominate, and he did. He dominated the situation. You don't dominate something like that without being able to even be moved up to your second squad unit on this football team. So it's a head scratcher, man. It totally is a head scratcher. I know some people, I have faith in the staff. I have total faith in the staff. This staff, to me has made solid decisions, and I'm going to back this staff up 100% as it moves forward, because I believe that they do understand, they do get it. And like I said, the talent on this running back core is there. It's strong, and it's happening. So I have no fear that we'll be able to run the ball. This offensive line will start to gel. It's going to start implementing more than just off counters and moving little things around. They're going to be explosive. They're going to attempt to be, and I think that's why we carried so many running backs. So in closing on the running backs, we're carrying more running backs and people that run the football than we did last year. Last year we had Latavius Murray, obviously. We had Taiwan Jones, Marcel Reese, Olawale. We had Roy Halou. Those were our running backs. This year we're up one by adding Richard, because Washington essentially takes the place of Roy Halou, so to speak. So that would round off our roster from last year, and then we add Jalen Richard. So the fact that we added so much depth to that position leads me to believe that they feel that, number one, that Jalen Richard is that valuable, and that he wouldn't have cleared waivers. They probably wouldn't have got him on the practice squad. So they wanted to add him to this roster and get him some work and protect him and develop him throughout the season. So, his explosiveness, his speed, his ability to take kickoffs and run with them really helped him make this roster. But we're deep, which means they're not going to leave a rock unturned. They're going to run the ball this year. So that's going to be interesting to see, even as early as Sunday when we take on the Saints. So all that being said, this roster, the practice squad roster rounds out. We'll get into a little bit more of that in the second half. I want to talk about some of the guys that are on that practice squad. These are some of the guys that we just lost to the practice squad. So in the second half, we're going to talk about the practice squad, some of the guys who made it, my thoughts on it. Also, I want to talk a little bit more about James Cowser. So when we get back from break, we'll start with Cowser, and then I'll get into the practice list. All right, guys, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Won't you follow me? too young to die. Yeah, will you walk the line like it's 30 chills? Oh, forget the way it's the best to you. I said, oh Lord, won't you follow me into the jungle? Ain't no God on these streets in the heart of the jungle. Won't you follow me into the jungle? Ain't no God on these streets in the heart of the jungle. Won't you follow me? See, I lost my mind in a city of lights. Yeah, the backstreet buildings and the neon lights. Yeah, and I heard the thunder, I could feel the rain.
Welcome back to the W2W review. I am the Oakland Knight. I am running solo today. We're going to jump right in here to the second half of the show, and we want to talk about none other than James Cowser. Now, James Cowser, as I mentioned briefly in segment 1, was put on the injured reserve list, which was interesting because it's for a concussion. At least as far as we know right now, he suffered a concussion. I want to say they said in the Green Bay game, he didn't play in the Tennessee game, and then we played him, quite a bit in the finale against the Seattle Seahawks. And looking back at the tapes, I didn't see anything to lead me to believe that this guy bumped his noggin. I just didn't. So the concussion thing. Here's the thing. We have put a player on injury reserve for a concussion before. That is something that we definitely have done. And his name is slipping my mind right now. We got him over from the Chicago Bears. He was actually a great middle linebacker for us. He was a backup to Brian Urlacher in Chicago for a while. And he had he was not only a season-ending concussion, it was a career-ending concussion. So, and I don't necessarily think that I saw that from James Cowser, man. It didn't look that serious anyway, and a lot of times concussions don't. They're lingering on. You have to be really careful with CTE and everything. So there's enough ground here when you're looking at that you could honestly say, okay, this could be, seriously legit and all that. But talking with Pirate, and this, guys, none of this I'm about to say is factual, but I think it's just very, very interesting to kind of talk about the character of James Cowser. When you're an undrafted free agent, you have the ability to go anywhere. You get to choose where you want to go. You're not going to get paid the big dollars. You weren't looked at, and they're not going to pay you the money that you feel that you've earned, but you're going to get an opportunity where you feel you fit in. So James Cowser chose the Raiders. He chose the Raiders for whatever reason, and I'm excited that he chose the Raiders, man. I mean, once again, you're just talking about a guy who gets it, right? So, I think, and like I said, this is just all speculation, Raider Nation. None of this could be factual. We'll see what comes out in the future, and hopefully the Raiders can't get in trouble for anything like this. But if you have a guy, and I made this analogy on the live show on Saturday. If you were to take Niko Autry, Latham, Jihad Ward, and Shalik Calhoun and throw them in one pile, and you also have James Cowser in there, and you had to pick out of those guys, those 5 guys, you could only pick 4. I think the Raiders picked the right 4. Now, I also said is because the difference being mainly is that, you got some draft picks involved, number 1. Number 2, well, not with Latham, by the way, not with Latham, but there's a little bit more readiness now. There's a little bit more 4-down readiness now between Autry, Latham, Ward, and Calhoun than there is with Cowser. Cowser, to me, showed so much that this guy is going to be a baller. He needs to work on his conditioning. I think he needs to develop his body. And what I mean by that is this guy's been, he dominated his small school college in college. Okay, he did fine. doing the way he is. But now he's in the NFL, so during his conditioning process, maybe they ask him to add some muscle here, lose it there, get more, basically this is what we add muscle here, lose muscle here, get conditioned, get more endurance. And I think you're going to be one hell of a player, and I think you're going to be one hell of a Raider. But when you look at it, they picked the right four at this point. But the Raiders also understood that James Cowser showed so much, and his ability, especially as a situational pass rusher, a guy you could bring in on third down, whether it's going to be from the outside linebacker spot, the strong side spot, or maybe you straight defensive end with his hand in the dirt. This guy showed that he was going to get and be relentless with his motor and attack. And the Raiders did not want to lose this guy, and maybe they felt that he wouldn't clear waivers. And even if he cleared waivers and made it to the practice squad, it could be like, and I brought this up, last week. He reminded me of the Max Vallis situation. The difference is James Cowser is more NFL ready now. So if James Cowser is more NFL ready now than Max Vallis was at the end of our last preseason, and a guy like Rex Ryan plucked Max Vallis off our practice squad, James Cowser would not have been there the whole year. Somebody eventually was going to be in need of some pass rush, even if it's a situational type of person, and that guy would have been gone. So that's why I really find it a little funny that he's on injured reserve with a concussion. I mean, it's like, okay, is this kind of a move to say? And he has a legit concussion now, guys. I'm not questioning that they're lying about that. Concussions can vary from different levels to different levels. So from what I understand, if you go on to the injured reserve list, number one, coaches, other teams don't touch injured players. Number two, it would take, Cowser has the opportunity here to basically deny the claim that he's injured or his concussion's that bad. And he could push it to where he could ask or get a injury settlement from the Raiders, and then he becomes a free agent and could go elsewhere. James Cowser's not doing that. He's accepted the fact that he's on injury reserve, season-ending injury reserve, by the way. So he's accepting. So there's obviously got to be something else there besides a concussion. I'm waiting to see some reports on what that possibly could be. It could be anything from a sprain, crack, a fracture. Who knows? But a season-ending, this early, this quick, out of nowhere, a season-ending concussion, maybe it's not season-ending. They just have to label it that way. So maybe they try to work him back into the roster from that position too. But I think once they put him out on season ending, that's it. But maybe it's a good way to lock up a player without keeping him away from other teams. The crazy thing is James Cowser accepting it, not wanting to get the settlement, not wanting to take his opportunity and play for another team, which excites me because that just lets me know that this guy wants to be a Raider. He chose the Raider when he was undrafted, and he's choosing to stay with the Raiders now. And to me, man, that's exciting. That's pretty awesome stuff. It's a testament to the environment that's been built here in Oakland, the coaching staff, the players, guys like Derek Carr, Khalil Mack, Mari Cooper, Bruce Irvin, etc. So I'm excited. I'm already feeling excited for 2017, especially to see some of these other young guys make it back on the squad. So saying that, let's talk about some of these guys. A few notable players that I think is should be talked about making our practice squad. KJ Brent, I think it's a guy that could be Andre Holmes' replacement for the future, whether it comes down to dollars and cents or just flat out play. The kid is a big, tall, physical wide receiver who can and showed that he could catch the ball in slants and over the middle, something that Andre Holmes has struggled with. So we'll see if Andre Holmes improves with that moving forward. But KJ Brent is someone that could fit that mold. So you give him another year on the practice squad, let him develop his skills, and KJ Brent has a great opportunity to make this roster next year. One that kind of caught me off guard a little bit was O'Malley, the tight end. We had Gabe Holmes. Gabe Holmes has made some lasting impressions. He's been a little injury prone, yes, but to have this guy, I think this is Rivera's last season. There was reports and rumors that Michael Rivera was gaining attention for trade. So either they didn't offer the Raiders enough for a trade, or the Raiders finally decided, you know what, we're going into the season to be the best of the best, and Michael Rivera gives us that, even if it's on the tail end. So even if your focal point is Clive Walford and Lee Smith, Michael Rivera is a nice number 3 to have back there. He's been a Raider for a long time. He's been with Carr since day one. There's enough chemistry and an understanding of what's going on that I think that's the right move. Essentially, I believe this is Michael Rivera's last year, hands down, no matter what. But the fact that we're able to just continue to add the depth at a high level gets me excited. Okay, a guy like Durden, the cornerback, I think he showed strong. He showed strong in that Seattle game. Just needs a little bit of work to develop, so that's another depth piece. He could be, DJ Hayden. Yes, there you go, guys. There it is. DJ Hayden's replacement come next year. We did not pick up the 5th-year option on DJ Hayden, so a guy like Durden on the practice squad to develop and continue to learn our system could be DJ Hayden's replacement of the future. So keep an eye on Durden. Another most notable, and let me confirm that real quick because I believe that if I'm going to do this, I need to be as accurate as possible for a blind guy, that is. And I got kicked out for some reason on the list that I had up, so they're making me go all the way back down. But another notable player that I believe that was on the practice squad was Greg Townsend. I think made the practice squad. I'm trying to confirm that right now, but my phone is obviously... All right, I'm going to get ready to move on. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Okay. So we had O'Malley. Oh, that's the other guy I wanted to talk about. I'll just jump on him real quick, too. I wanted to talk about Corey Toomer. I thought Corey Toomer really showed up, especially on special teams. Am I shocked that he didn't make the roster? Not at all. I believe that, this is a guy that you can continue to develop. I mean, we kept a guy like Bates, and I remember reading a comment somewhere, and someone's like, why did we keep Bates and not keep a guy like Toomer who was flying around making plays? Well, Bates, literally, that's what Bates is. We picked him up in free agency. He is a total special team specialist, a very good special teams. And if you remember, Jack Del Rio talked about making sure that this is going to be a big special teams team. They wanted to focus on our special teams. Our kicking game is on point. Our return game seems to get a boost now with guys like DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard, Tywan Jones, Johnny Holton. We got a slew of guys that showed ton of explosiveness and can actually return kicks. So the other thing after that is to shore up, our run coverages, our special team coverage units on kickoff and punt returns. And, Bates is one of those guys, another guy that made the team that maybe people are well, really, is Tradewick. Tradewick, the safety, is the same type of mold as Bates, special team specialist. Those guys were brought in here in free agency to be and help boost this special teams unit. So that's why those guys are on this team. And if you look at the depth chart, they're in there deep. Now, we're going to have to rely on these guys. Yeah, we just might. It's the National Football League. Any given Sunday, any given play, anything could happen, and you got to be ready. But these guys are special team specialists. So Toomer's going to have another year to develop, because Toomer, I think they look at Toomer as a guy that can be more than just a special team specialist. So I'm excited to see Toomer develop as we move forward. And I think, guys, I'm going to have to correct myself. Greg Townsend, the second or junior, did not make the list, and I thought he did. So scratch that. Greg Townsend did not make it on the practice squad, which is fine. I believe that there's enough talent on this practice squad as of right now that gives us a head start. To next year, to the 2017 season. We got a draft. We picked up a 7th round pick from the Seattle Seahawks for Dewey McDonald. And I'm going to go ahead and say this early on. When you look at the way this roster is built this season, I'm excited. There's a ton of talent. For the first time in over a decade, this roster is not only talented, but it's young talent. So it's talent that we could continue to develop moving forward. It's talent that's going to be around here for a while. So once we really acclimate these players and they really start to really fit into the system and they get coached up, we're going to be relevant for a while, guys. And as long as they continue to rotate the talent in and do a good job evaluating talent and moving this thing forward, it's going to be exciting. So look for free agency next year to be boring. extremely boring free agency period next offseason. For one, we got some contracts we're going to need to focus on. For example, Derek Carr. Derek Carr is someone they're going to want to address in the offseason, obviously depending on what he does this season, but I'm expecting big things, so they're going to have to address that. And then they're probably, if Latavius Murray shows up, they're going to have to pay Murray too. Murray's on his last year of his contract, so they're going to be focusing on players like that at this point. We're going to be focusing on keeping our own, making sure we pay our own, and make sure we make the right and proper decisions there. We got so much young talent on this football team with a whole nother draft class to come in and develop. If there's a middle linebacker available, I'm just speaking for where our needs would be right now. If there was a middle linebacker out there that we could get, and look for that too. Reggie could be making some moves. He did, within the first 2 weeks of the season with David Amerson last year, and look for him to do that again. If there's a middle linebacker that they feel could boost this team now. But when I look at the depth of this football team, I'm okay with it. I'm really okay with the depth on this football team. Sure, you're always looking for good corners that can come in and compete. But I like our defensive line rotation. We got some pieces that we're developing still there. I like the offensive line. I do believe that we need to focus on left tackle. No disrespect to my boy Donald Penn, but age is always an issue in the NFL. When your time comes, we got to be ready to respond. So I believe that we should be looking for a left tackle. But I don't necessarily think that you need to do that in the offseason at this point. I believe our players are in a position, we're developing a guy like McCants, but I don't see McCants being the answer when Penn's gone. But this is what you use the draft for. Go find the talent. You don't need to go spend the money in free agency and get in money wars to try to bring talent on this football team. I think Reggie's done a good job, especially the last 2 years, doing that, building up this roster. Now we're in a position where when moving forward, we're going to be able to focus in on the draft, develop our own players, and start using that revolving door, because unfortunately that revolving door, that's what happens. Some guys come, we like them. A lot of tough teams make tough decisions, but we got our key players. We got Carr, we got Coop, we got Mack. We got Joseph. We need another linebacker, but once we start adding that kind of talent across the board, you're not gonna. How do you think we got Bruce Irvin, a former first-round pick, by the way? How did we get Bruce Irvin? Why? Because Seattle had enough talent where they let him go because they couldn't pay him. You can't pay everybody. So, moving forward, we got free agency might become boring, but that just means this team is not going to be boring anymore. This team is going to be on fire. We are just 6 days away, Raider Nation. I'm excited. I know you guys are all excited. Stay tuned this week to the W2W review, as tomorrow we're going to take a look at the 53-man roster on offense, and Wednesday we will look at the 53-man roster on defense. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at The Will to Win. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email us at the w2w@gmail.com. That is the w2w@gmail.com. All right, Raider Nation. For The Will to Win, for Raider Pirate, who's working hard on the broadcast, I'm the Oakland Knight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay Raider strong.
Hey there, I'm Jason Smith, also known as the Oakland Knight. We'd like to thank you for watching the Will to Win broadcast here on YouTube. And if you would like to stay up to date for more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. Or you could click any one of the videos on the side to watch more great videos. Thank you once again, and stay Raider strong.